We've just arrived in Mezcala Park, and we're going to check with the owner of this restaurant to see if it's okay to park in his parking lot. And Martha is Mexican. She speaks fluent Spanish, obviously, and so she's doing all the negotiating for us to allow us to park in this parking lot and negotiate the price you're going to pay. And this is looking back in towards the town. As you can see, the beautiful mountains are in the background there. And here's where we parked our car. And it's just beautiful around here with the vegetation, the greenery, and so forth. And we're right up on the lake. So Martha's also negotiating to get us a guide to take us on a tour, get us on the boat over to the island, and he's going to be our guide and explain to us everything that's going on. This is an area where you can sit and relax, facing the lake.
So we just got here to Mezcala, and let's show them the sign. So we're getting ready to do a little tour of Mezcala, and it's a really, really beautiful, very interesting historic place. So here we go. New adventure.
Gracias Mezcala con encañazos y cosas Santana. Siguen en la isla más de 1000 personas con palos y ondas. Combatieron la isla, hicieron cosas, ya nunca se unieron. En todas las batallas nunca se unieron. Entre sus gentes, estamos todos presentes. El lucha vivió una pasión y un amor. Este poema es titulado Qué bonito de Mezcala. Qué bonito de Mezcala. Con sus cantas, con su voz que me pintaron. La gente contempla con el corazón contento. Sabe que es idea y con la lata ya que yo muertos castellanos y amigos de Santana.
Bravo.
He's speaking about the history that the town, what happened with the people trying to find.
So this is the pier or the dock where we're going to take off from. And this is looking out over the lake. The island is way in the distance, and I'm taking a few shots of the island there. So you can see that way out there in the water. So we're preparing to, this is a seating area, by the way, which normally would be bustling with tourists, and restaurants will be open and serving people lunch and whatever else snacks they wanted to have before they took off for the island. So right now most of the boats are docked, and it's getting ready to rain. It's going to be a rainy day, so we're just taking a chance and taking off for the island. That's our boat. We're getting loaded up on there, and we're getting ready to set sail. And there's Ada getting her things together. And so we're now on the boat, and those are our boatsmen who are going to get this boat on its way. We're getting our safety jackets all fastened up so that we'll be safe on the water. And there's Martha and Ken riding in the seat in front of us, and our guide's up front, and he makes these great little slingshots that he explains to us were used by the natives when they fought off the Spanish. These slingshots they'd load with rocks and flint stones that could cut you, and it was something simple like that that were used to hold off the attacks by the Spanish. And the lake is
the story is fascinating because, and Daryl will get into it a little bit more while we're touring the island, but really these native people use these little slingshots loaded with rocks to ward off the Spaniards who were trying to invade their land, and they won the fight. They won the war. So anyway, I think it's really fascinating.
So we're approaching the island. There's actually two islands, the main island and a smaller island that you'll see off to the right. But we're getting closer here, and we're going to pull up the dock here in a sec here and unload. So we're just about there, and this is the shoreline. There's some of the ruins from the forts and where the residents that on the island where they resided. And as you can see, Ken is unloading. There's wild cats on the island, so Ken decided to bring some cat food for the cats. And there's a cat already up there at his feet, waiting to be fed. And so he's unloading his food. And I think Martha stopped him from feeding the cat right there and wanted us to get on with our tour because the guide needed to get going. And on the island, as you can see, they've been fixing it up and setting it up as a spot for tourists. And this is an old tree. The tree is I don't know, hundreds of years old.
Check this tree out. Now this tree, this is actually the way the tree grows. The bark is just like that, but that's a little cave, a little cavern there where some of the natives hid out and
Yeah, they would put the children and women in the cave to be protected while they were fighting the Spaniards.
right. So we haven't gotten to the tree yet, but here we go. Look at this tree. It's fascinating. Some of these things that are just, natural. It's just a natural occurrence or phenomena. That tree, that is the way it grows, with the bark looking just like that.
Yeah, it was a bright yellow. It looked like it was painted. So just amazing to see that tree there. And that tree was there when the fighting was going on with the Spaniards way back hundreds of years ago.
And don't forget that really now, you'll probably get into that later, that actually there was a prison there at one point.
Yeah, you'll see that building a little later. Throughout the island, there were these signs here that explained what you were looking at. They're both in Spanish and English, and they just described, the battles that went on, and how they fought off the Spaniards. These are squash that grow wild on the island in this little
Chipotle. Right?
Chicote.
Chicote.
Yeah.
It's a squash. They're really quite good. They taste sort of like potatoes, and they're very healthy. Did you see the pineapples?
Yeah, pineapples growing there in that
Wild.
area.
They're growing in there wild. I'm backing out of the lair now.
And we're heading on up further into the island towards some of the other ruins. And we're headed up the trail, and there's, as I said, more signs along the way, which explain everything that you're seeing and describing what occurred way back in the day. So this area here that we're going to approach protected the inhabitants from attacks by the Spaniards.
So, as we move further into our little journey, our little hike, we're going to speed up some of the clips because we spent most of the day there, and everything was just fascinating to us. So we wanted to show as much as we could, but some of the clips will be sped up. Now he's going to talk a little bit about a ceremonial.
So we're taking that and we cut hair. When you cutting, ¿cómo se dice?
Cortar.
No, ¿cómo se dice? No dolor, anestesiado queda.
Pain. Anesthesia. Was anesthesia.
Ya, porque el corte es muy filoso, y al cortarte te deja anestesiado.
Okay, we said when he cutting, he don't feel nothing.
Yeah.
That is gone.
It's real charcoal.
Anesthesia.
Yeah. So when they start blooding, you go put the blood in the small container, and you go put it in the middle of the circle here. After that one, you will repeat the name for the ritual in Nahuatl word. We call it Necastli or Nesnacatlistli. Nesnacatlistli, that means in Spanish, yo me corto sangro. In English, I cut the ear and the bloody. In Necastli, me corto, I cut. After that one, you will start practicing the ceremony. And after that one, you go taking again the containing, like this. And you go start walking like this, and you go start before here. And go with the small container to the lake. And where you thinking is real deep, you go jumping on the water to try to give you a thanks for raining God. Supposedly, if you practice that ritual, the raining God, they will give, ¿cómo se dice? Mejores tiempos de lluvia y recoger mejores cosechas de la
The
región.
best time that when it's raining,
Mm.
This area here was a barracks that was built by the Spaniards, and there were sleeping quarters in this area here, and the sleeping quarters were arranged by rank. And so the largest sleeping quarters, and this was all rock, and the beds were formed from rock, and I suppose they had some sort of bedding. This building here is a church that was started, a chapel, but never completed. And so they actually rebuilt the ceiling, the roof on this building. It had collapsed and they rebuilt it. And some other portions of this building were rebuilt to re-erect it so that you could see it in the condition that it is now. But it was never finished, and the altar was never completed, and the seating was never put in.
So in a minute, you'll see that I got some shots of some of the teenagers listening to their music. Quite adorable.
Everything down from there was washed away. And we bring it.
As you can see, one of the teenagers was a little shy. She was hiding behind her tablet.
We're heading into town to take a look at the city of Mezcala, and again, Martha's being the translator. And so we head up the street. You can see the mountains in the background behind the town and the spires from the cathedral. There's a church in every Mexican town, and so these are the businesses on the side street. There's a cell phone store. There's construction underway here, building a new store, probably going to go in here, and so that's mid construction. There's grocery stores on every corner. You can buy lots of fresh food. And it's pretty similar to organics. So you can eat food from wherever you see it, wherever you get it for the most part.
Listen, it's really quite extraordinary. We were walking along the street and we saw this huge mango tree, and the mangoes, there were so many mangoes that they couldn't eat them all, so there were tons of mangoes on the ground, and then you look up in the tree and there were still mangoes. So that kind of organic.
This is one of the city buildings. It's actually a museum in part of this building, and we're going to go into that museum and take a look around and see what they have on display. And so this is the looking back onto the street here. We were trying to figure out where the entrance is. We're trying to go in the right way, and it took us a minute to figure out what the right entrance was. So we finally got there. And here's some fossils that were found in the area. There's some dinosaur bones and all kinds of interesting things that they had put on display here.
Some of their pottery.
Mm-hmm. And
There are the bones there, right?
there's them bones. and artifacts by the Aztecs. There's arrows that were used to fight the battles with the Spaniards. And
those little arrows were sharp.
yeah, they were made out of a flint-like rock, so they were when you chipped them, the edges were like as sharp as a razor blade. And
Don't they have that rock all over Mezcala?
yeah, it was naturally occurring, and so you could just find them, especially on the island there. You could find them laying on the ground, pick them up, and we actually brought a sample home with us. The guy gave us one to take with us.
But some really interesting, pottery and artifacts, historic things.
He even had a helmet from one of the Spaniards that had come in there, when the conquistadors came through. So there's the helmet.
Yeah.
Here's more artifacts and some of these, they were across different periods of time.
Are those the rocks that they slung at the Spaniards, possibly?
I think they were either some were balls that the pistols shot, and others cannonballs. And then there's, as I said, there were a variety of ages covered here. So here's some more
Their garments.
recent artifacts, and the clothing they wore.
These are some of their famous historic people.
These are people, famous people from the town, people that either came through the town or lived in the town.
So that's the end of that historic adventure.
It was wonderful. It was a great experience. Wonderful historical information. I loved learning about Mezcala and that Indian culture, or I should say Aztec culture in that region. It was wonderful.
So I guess we'll see you at our next adventure video. So thank you for joining us. And as always, don't forget to subscribe or like us
Absolutely.
if you find our videos interesting. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.